Sources are telling CBS this morning about anticipated announcement tomorrow from the Justice Department. Tech giant Infosys will pay $34 million to settle charges of visa fraud. That is the biggest fine of its kind in American history.
Infosys Limited, an Indian company involved in consulting, technology, and outsourcing, has agreed to a record $34 million civil settlement based on allegations of systemic visa fraud and abuse of immigration process, and also agreed to enhanced corporate compliance measures. The $34 million payment made by Infosys as a result of these allegations represents the largest payment ever levied in an immigration case. This settlement was announced by U.S. Attorney John M. Bales, Eastern District of Texas. This issue was brought into light in 2010, while an industry principal at Infosys, Jay, uncovered an illegal scheme in which the company was using B-1 workers for unlawful work in the United States. Later in the 2010, he filed a whistleblower complaint, which led to a 2011 grand jury investigation.
What was the first thing to catch your attention?
I had an employee over from India that had been over several times before, and he came up to me and he was literally in tears. He told me he was over here illegally. He didn't want to be here. He was worried that he would get caught.
The scheme Palmer says he uncovered involved bringing in Indian workers to the U.S. under false pretenses, using visas claiming they had special expertise that couldn't be found in the U.S., visas claiming they were just here for a meeting, and visas claiming they wouldn't work in the U.S. CBS News obtained these internal Infosys documents that allegedly gave employees instructions on how to lie once they got to immigration.
So then, what's the motive to bring them in? You could hire an American who is trained in that particular discipline and do better.
It's purely profit.
And Palmer says some of the workers who claimed to have special expertise actually had to be trained by the same American workers whose jobs they were taking.
Did you find that they were all people who had some special expertise that we couldn't find here?
Absolutely not. Not even close.
Palmer says Infosys executives knew about the fraudulent practices and continued them to increase company profits.
It's really about getting people over, no matter what the cost or whatever. And I think that's the first time I heard the term, Americans are stupid.
And they said that in reference to
the law. Getting around the system. Yeah, absolutely.
Infosys brings foreign nationals into the United States to perform work and fulfill contracts with its customers under two visa classification programs relevant to this matter, H1B and B1. The H1B visa is a strictly regulated visa program that protects the American worker from unfair competition from overseas countries that have drastically lower labor wages. The H-1B visa allows employers to temporarily employ foreign nationals needed for certain specialty occupations. This visa also protects foreign workers and mandates that they must be paid fair wages while working in the United States. However, there is no limit to B-1 visitors. And the B-1 visa program only allows foreign nationals to temporarily enter the United States for conferences, seminars, and the like.
What kind of work would you be allowed to do on this visa?
They're business-related activities. So, for example, you can be a trainer. You could be training U.S. workers. You could be supervising U.S. workers for a particular job. You can also be a skilled worker coming in to do a business transaction or execute a contract for your foreign company. But you're employed by the foreign company and you're paid in the wages from your foreign company.
So one of the things, Kathleen, that people are going to say, I think, when they see this report is American workers are losing out. These jobs can go to Americans, but they're going to these Eastern Europeans or other people that are coming in to work in these plants. What do you say to that?
Well, U.S. workers aren't given an opportunity to get those jobs. The reason is, with the non-immigrant visas, there's only very few visas that require the companies to look for U.S. workers first.
So they don't even have to look for U.S. workers.
Correct. So the U.S. workers that are local might not have any idea that these opportunities are even available to them.
How many of our politicians are aware of what appears to be at least some level of abuse of this system?
There's very little known about how the B1 visa is used. So I would say there's very little knowledge about it, and there's a real need for transparency. And it's not just the B1 visa. There's lots of different categories. And what you see, the abuse of it is that U.S. employers moving between the different categories to avoid higher paying the visas that are more complicated to get for a workforce. So there's a lot of flexibility in there that could be fraudulent. And it really comes down to the benevolence of the employer. If it's a good employer who's going to follow the rules, it will be fine. But if you have an employer that's looking to cut corners and to save costs, using these non-immigrant visas, especially the non-formal ones, it's an excellent way to do it. And because of the lack of transparency, you're going to probably get away with it.
B1 visa holders are not allowed to work in the United States. Infosys unlawfully and fraudulently used B1 visa visitors as though they were H1B workers in violation of U.S. immigration law. According to court documents, the government alleged instances of Infosys circumventing the requirements, limitations, and governmental oversight of the H1B visa program by knowingly and unlawfully using B1 visa holders to perform skilled labor to fill positions in the United States for employment that would otherwise be performed by U.S. citizens or by legitimate H1B visa holders. The government also alleged that Infosys violated U.S. immigration laws to increase its profits, minimize costs of securing visas, increase flexibility of employee movement, obtain an unfair advantage over competitors, and avoid tax liabilities. The settlement agreement requires Infosys to pay $34 million to the United States. This settlement against Infosys is the largest immigration fine on record.